Have you heard of Bob Cialdini, Arizona State University? The most recognized, widely used, published psychologist in the world. The guy's amazing. And Bob Cialdini is going to share a little bit about the power of the psychology of reciprocation and what it can do for you and your career.
Reciprocation. In all human cultures, there is not a single society that does not train its members in the rule for reciprocation, which says, I am obligated to give back to you the form of behavior that you first give to me. If you invite me to a party, I should invite you to one of mine. If you remember my birthday with a gift, I should remember yours. If you do me a favor, I owe you a favor. And I'll say very simply, in the context of obligation, people say yes to those they owe.
It's just that simple. You look for ways to give to people because that sets up a psychological balance in the account that they are compelled to repay. Now, Bob Cialdini's got a pretty good example of this for you right now. Here's an example of how reciprocation works.
I had a student a couple of years ago come up after class. This is a little different student than most. She's a woman who had raised a family in Scottsdale, Arizona, where I live. She came back to get her degree, and she said, Dr. Cialdini, you have just solved a decade-long mystery in my home. She said, about 10 years ago, we got a Christmas card from some people in Santa Barbara, California, the Harrisons, and I didn't remember any Harrisons in him. I asked my husband, he couldn't place the Harrisons, and my kids were too young, and she said, with a great amount of effort, I resisted sending them a card that year because I was sure it was a mistake. But the following year, we got another card from the Harrisons. So I sent them a card. We're now in the 10th year of exchanging cards with these people. I still don't know who they are. That's how it works. Now, she came back to my office a few months later, and she said, Dr. Cialdini, I have to tell you the end of this story. She said, my son, Skip, was applying to colleges this year. He's a very good student, so he got into all of his schools, including his top choice, the University of California at Santa Barbara. She said he's such a good student that he was asked to be in their honors program and to come to campus a day early for the honors convocation. Well, his dorm room wasn't ready, so he needed a place to stay in Santa Barbara. And she said, I thought to myself, who do we know in Santa Barbara? The Harrisons! The Harrisons! So she called him on the phone, and she was the sort of person who didn't just write a Christmas card with a greeting. She would also include a Xerox letter describing what the family had been up to for the... So the Harrisons knew about Skip since Little League days. They said, Skip, the Skip man, the Skip Meister, of course he can come and stay with us. That's now. Here's the other side of that. Should the Harrisons ever have a son or a daughter traveling across the country who needs a place to stay in Arizona, well, my student and her family have to be willing to live by the rule and give back, but why not? Now they have what the Harrisons need. It's a terrific system.
Why, when you go out with more than 5 or 6 friends drinking, you get so incredibly drunk? Someone buys the first round, someone buys the second round, someone buys the third, fourth, and then it comes to be your turn. We can't go home, I haven't had a chance to buy a round. And no one wants another drink, but you are compelled by reciprocation. So Uncle Joel's advice, only go out drinking with one other person. Or do what I do, drink by yourself and be alone. Just stay in your lonely room and sad, isn't it? Old men will kill you every time. All right. So let's talk a little bit more, if you will, about the economic foundations. What's the thing that makes reciprocation work, Dr. Cialdini?
Here's why it works. It works the way it does because every human society that trains its members every group, every organization that plays by the rules of reciprocal exchange gains an enormous competitive advantage. It is that within that group, whoever needs help, resources, time, attention, staffing, whatever it is, can call on other members of the group who feel free to send those resources because they are not sending them away. Now that's profound. For the first time in evolutionary history, there is no other species that has anything like the idea of future obligation for repayment of gifts and favors and services. For the first time in evolutionary history, it becomes possible for one individual to give resources to another without giving them away. What you get instead is a credit. And now when you need something, you can call on other members of the group whom you have helped in the past, and they are very willing. In fact, they are waiting to help because the saddle of obligation weighs heavy on us, and we want to repay our debts. We want to give back to those who have given to us. It's a manager's dream, this rule. Whoever is needy within the organization, whoever has a deficit, can get resources from others, right? And can feel good about asking for them because they're not being solicitors of information or resources that don't get paid back. They now will pay back. Whoever needs it, that resource is sent, that deficit is resolved within the group, right? Terrific system.
We're all so Midwest nice, you know, we're always helping, and I know you're going to help other folks. Here's what I want you to do. When you have helped someone else, and now you need their help, I want you to ask for it. Don't hesitate, because by asking them to help you, you're helping them. They have an obligation, they feel like they owe you, and you relieve them of that. So you actually get to help them twice. It's a lovely thing. You know, the Inuits have a wonderful thing that they teach their children. It goes across all cultures. They tell their children the best place to store surplus food, you have some extra seal or some extra whale or fish, the best place to store surplus food is in someone else's stomach. Lovely stuff. That seal meat thing puts you off a little bit, doesn't it? The stomach and seal thing, I shouldn't have gone there, right? Okay. So you're going to be networking, you're new, you're a little young, you don't feel like you're part of the group. When do you start this reciprocation? Do you wait for other people to do it for you? Well, here's Dr. Cialdini's advice.
Exchange is the initiator that begins relationships that create partnerships, alliances, and allegiances. And it means you should be first. The implication of this is if you want to set the tone for the relationship that you want to engender and cultivate, you act first. Your question when you go into a room where you want to be influential is not, who can help me here? It should be, whom can I help here? Whom can I genuinely advantage, especially in a business way? How can I promote the business prospects of the people in this room, and they will now want to promote the business prospects of you and your organization.
It's a very DePaul message. You know, St. Vincent de Paul founded the order with the rich women of the noble court in France, and didn't just want their jewelry and money. He insisted they help serve the poor at a time when poor were more wretched than anything we can imagine, and serve with dignity. He insisted it wasn't just slop in a bowl, it was food placed on a linen tablecloth served with dignity. And you know, this great university was founded over 100 years ago in Chicago to create a middle class out of the working poor, to help the immigrant poor of this nation rise to the middle class. And now we have great schools of business, law, We have grand schools in music and theater. We have obviously we have our roots deep in the upper middle class, and yet we still work bridging in, helping immigrants achieve great opportunity in the United States. We are a giving school, and reciprocation is a big part of who we are. And the fact that it makes great business sense, well, we're not dumb, okay?